Moses stands at the height of his influence. He has survived the court of Pharaoh and led his people through the floor of the Red Sea. At Mount Sinai, he receives the Torah, a divine transmission of wisdom and law meant to govern every aspect of human existence. In this moment of absolute clarity, Moses experiences a thought that he is now the most knowledgeable creature God has ever created. The response is immediate and jarring. God sends Gabriel to inform Moses that this single thought of superiority has destroyed his spiritual standing. He is ordered to find a creature he is better than and bring it to a divine meeting. Moses searches his camp, looking at his companions and then a diseased dog, intending to use it as proof of his own status. But he realizes the dog has never failed a divine command. He abandons the animal and arrives to meet God alone, admitting he cannot find a single soul on earth he is superior to. He passes the test of humility, but his reliance on his own logic is now broken. He is ready to learn that human intellect can only perceive a fraction of reality. To further dismantle his ego, God commands Moses to travel to the junction of the two seas. There he is to meet a servant whose knowledge exceeds his own. This servant is Al-Khidr, the Green One. Narrations describe him as a prophet who appears across vastly different eras, from the time of the Israelites to the era of the family of Muhammad. He exists simultaneously in the past and the future, moving through history as if time were a map rather than a sequence. Their meeting point is marked by a dead, salted fish that suddenly gains life, leaps from their lunch basket, and swims into the ocean. Moses realizes a dead creature was more responsive to the divine will than he was. The fish found the location it was meant for, while the prophet and his youth had walked right past it. They leave the world of physical laws. Moses is witnessing the universe from a perspective where the boundaries of time have been removed. Al-Khidr grants Moses permission to follow him, provided he remains silent. He is forbidden from questioning any act, no matter how nonsensical it appears, until the journey ends. They board a ship belonging to poor workers. Al-Khidr immediately moves to the lower deck and begins drilling a hole in the hull. Moses, seeing an act of random destruction against kind people, breaks his vow to object. This wasn't a random ship. According to the narrations, they had stepped into the past, boarding the vessel that carried the prophet Jonah during his flight from God. The sabotage was a rescue. A king was seizing every functional ship for his fleet. By making the vessel look like a wreck, Al-Khidr ensured the poor sailors kept their livelihood, and Jonah reached his destiny. At the second station, the acts become darker. Al-Khidr encounters a young boy and kills him. Moses is horrified by the loss of an innocent life and violently protests the injustice. Al-Khidr removes the boy to prevent the parents, Amram and Hannah, from misery, clearing a different branch of history. In his place, they receive a daughter, Mary. This death was the prerequisite for the mother of the Messiah, an event Moses could not see. They enter a city that denies them food and shelter. Despite their hunger, Al-Khidr spends the day rebuilding a crumbling wall for the hostile citizens, expecting nothing in return. Moses demands a wage for the work to pay for a meal. For him, labor without compensation in a city of enemies is a failure of logic. Al-Khidr informs him the journey is over. Moses had accepted supernatural travel, but he could not accept the concept of unrewarded suffering. His understanding was still bound by his immediate physical needs. Al-Khidr explains the final station. Beneath the crumbling wall sat a treasure, hidden safely out of sight. The city they had visited was a version of ancient Egypt. The two orphans who owned the treasure were Moses and his brother Aaron, growing up as captives in Pharaoh's house, separated from their parents and their inheritance. If the wall had collapsed, the hostile Egyptians would have discovered and stolen the gold meant to fund Moses's own eventual mission. Al-Khidr was working in the past to secure Moses's own future. Moses had spent the day fighting against the very act that ensured his own survival and the success of his prophecy. The experience dissolves Moses's ego. He realizes that what he called wisdom was merely the ability to see one isolated thread in a massive design. The Creator sees the entire tapestry, connecting a damaged boat in one century to the birth of a prophet in another. Like Moses, we judge our lives by the damaged ships and the unfair walls we encounter. We are often unaware that these very setbacks are the silent interventions required to keep our paths intact.